So, what is a paradox? A paradox is a statement which appears to be self-contradictory or silly, but in which may include a latent truth. In other words, just a situation that seems impossible or difficult to understand because it contains two opposite facts or characteristics. To identify when we're faced with a paradox of sorts, whether it's in life or so forth, we can break this into two subcategories, the introductory domain and the ladder domain, in which formulates a contradictory proposition to the paradox. For example, the paradoxical statement, "you save money by spending it," can be divided into these two subcategories. The notion of saving money being the initial preface and by spending it being the latter element of sorts. However, for something to be considered a paradox, these two elements in the formula, whilst contradictory, must form together to some sort of logical loop by which these bipolar domains formulate sense and logical reasoning. Weird how that works, isn't it? Two things that aren't supposed to go together or make sense just somehow click in the mind. Using the example I just alluded to, whilst the objective is to save money, you can save more by investing or spending what money you have to maintain a more efficient way or efficient method of saving and therefore accumulating capital. I mean, these paradoxes can be even as simple as the monotonous question of what came first, the chicken or the egg. It was definitely the egg. Don't listen to what anyone else tells you. However, these aren't the paradoxes I aim to discuss today. We are more so going to look into paradoxes which exist within our real sphere, concerning human civility and some of the more generalized principles which provide an interesting outlook on human nature. These paradoxes are ones that have no immediate moral or logical answer. They are based on deciphering human thought and behavior, which in itself is messy and incomprehensible at points. It all seems to contradict. One commonly held paradox in itself is this cycle of life and death. Life in itself involves the progression of a soul or entity, which grows, develops skills, builds meaningful relationships, contributes to their community or the wider society, reproduces, and all these other human elements. However, all this contribution and experience is put to the wayside when a person inevitably ages and succumbs to well-known fate of death. This formulates this paradox in a view of a persisting cycle whereby one is given life to only have it taken away. Here again, we can dissect this statement by putting it into two different domains. The initial preface being the persistence of life, and the latter domain being death. Moving away from the more morbid and existential paradoxes we have in our reality, a more fun and theoretical one is found in Schrodinger's cat. This paradox itself is quite well illustrated by the mainstream media in shows such as The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon Cooper explains this quite well as he conceptualizes and correlates the existence of Penny's relationship with Leonard to the presence of Schrodinger's cat, whether it be alive or dead, until you open the box.
Well, let's see. We might consider Schrodinger's cat. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger, in an attempt to explain the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics, he proposed an experiment where a cat is placed in a box with a sealed vial of poison that will break open at a random time. Now, since no one knows when or if the poison has been released, until the box is opened, the cat can be thought of as both alive and dead. Just like Schrodinger's cat, your potential relationship with Leonard right now can be thought of as both good and bad. It is only by opening the box that you'll find out which it is.
Whilst this presentation of the paradox is quite quirky and out there, it does present a very good point about the perception of life and the way we should go about it. Quoting Sheldon himself, "We don't know whether the cat is dead or alive until we open the box," meaning that we can perceive the cat to be both dead and alive. Creating this, again, a contradiction. How can a cat be both dead and alive? And Schrodinger's cat provides this idea of how we should live our lives. We should keep progressing, moving into the future, trying new things, because we don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what the future holds, like the box. We don't know what the box holds. We don't know what the future holds. Another interesting thing about paradoxes is that they pressure us to revise or reconsider our beliefs and thoughts. In a daunting way, they somewhat transcend the concept of knowledge in the factual world and epistemology, alluding to an existential dilemma. In a very condensed sense, they can both work to enlighten and question the very nature of fact and human perception, and open a new door to human and literal experience. Just like how Penny takes on the endeavor of her relationship with Leonard in The Big Bang Theory, paradoxes further build courage by better conceptualizing the unknown and how such ambiguity of the future can be motivating and exciting. In a way, we should really look at the world from the view of a giant paradox. Everything we do is going to contradict. We don't have the answers to these things. And I think in that sense, that is beautiful as well. If we apply these principles of paradoxes to our everyday life, we can find it in ourselves to be further motivated. I suggest this as whilst everything does seem to have a logical answer, even these fallacies illustrate that not everything is certain. These paradoxes illustrate that we cannot put words to everything and explain it. I know this video is a bit of a rant about bullshit, but I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that paradoxes provide a very interesting way of thinking, in that these very simple statements contradict the very nature of knowledge. And I believe that goes to show that not everything is solid. And I believe that is better to understand, as to navigate life in a very appropriate and mature way, we have to understand that nothing is certain. And via understanding this, we are able to get further fulfillment. Thank you again for watching. Again, as I said, this is just kind of a rant. I really just wanted to look further into paradoxes. It's not a very long video, but I feel like the point of this was to just brush some air off my chest and find a way to kind of compact a small conversation about paradoxes into this small little video. If anyone's wondering, this is Young Lean Stranger, Earl Sweatshirts Doris, and Daft Punk's Alive. I love all these albums, so they mean something to me. I'm looking to make some more music content coming up. I'd like to make a top 10 albums of the year. It'll be mainly hip-hop focused because that's my love. I might throw a few jazz albums in there, but who knows. Okay, bye.